through now, inshallah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم إن يدعون من دونه إلا إناثا وإن يدعون إلا شيطانا مريدا لعنه الله وقال لأتخذن من عبادك نصيبا مفروضا ولأضلنهم ولأمنينهم ولأمرنهم فليبتكن آذان الأنعام ولآمرنهم فليغيرن خلق الله ومن يتخذ الشيطان وليا من دون الله فقد خسر خسرانا مبينا. So we started there with a recitation of the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that they invoke not besides him but female deities, and they in fact invoke none but a rebellious devil that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has cursed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has cursed, for he said, I will surely take from among them your servants a specific portion, and I will mislead them, and I will arouse in them sinful desires, and I will command them so that they slit the ears of cattle, and I will command them so that they will change the creation of Allah, and whoever takes shaitan as an ally instead of Allah has certainly sustained a clear loss. In these three verses that I just recited here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exposes the devil for manifesting, showing, and giving the idea to human beings that a female deity has come to visit them. And Allah is telling us that in reality, it's not a female deity. It is someone masquerading and using this disguise as a female to mislead and misguide mankind. And Allah says that this individual, this being is cursed. And this being promised. He promised. He said, I will take from among your servants, meaning human beings. I will take from among the human beings a specific portion. He's targeting a number of human beings, a portion of human beings, and he's targeting them to misguide them. And this is what he says. Allah told us what he said. He said, I will mislead them, and I will arouse in them sinful desires, and I will command them so that they will slit the ears of cattle, mutilate cattle, and I will command them so they will change the creation of God, so they will manipulate it, so they will change it physically by cutting parts of their body and mutilating themselves, and in other ways by meddling with the very genetic data of the human being. And then Allah gives a warning. God gives us a warning at the end. He said, and whoever takes Satan as an ally instead of God has certainly sustained a clear loss. These verses is the foundation of what we're going to be talking about today. The lady that has been so prominent in the last few years in the UAP, UFO disclosure efforts isn't a new thing. The lady's been around for a long time, and we're pleased to say that today we're going to be discussing in depth the lady here with IREP. We've got a number of researchers from the IREP team who have done a deep dive into the topic, and hopefully together, myself included, we're going to learn some new things about the history of the lady, and more importantly, the types of behaviors and ways in which this individual tries to, persuade and sort of push mankind to sort of engineer mankind towards a certain behavior pattern. So, without further ado, I'd like to invite up to speak Sami, Hussam, and Afaq. They are the primary researchers today, and I'm really excited to hear this. And hopefully, we can all learn something new. And this is going to be initially it's going to be a discussion with the more of a research piece being presented, but at the end of it we will be having a discussion. So if you have any questions or you want to jump in, or if there's something that you want to push back against, please hang around, because after a little while we'll open up the panel, so to speak, for questions and for everyone to have a sort of backward and forward. So hopefully you guys enjoy this, and we'll take it away. I'll go with you first, Afaq. You can get us started. Bismillah.
For sure. I appreciate it, guys. What I'll do is I'll just quickly touch on the history, the background. This will be very brief, and then I'll pass it on to Isam. I think his name is Sam on X. So let's get started. So basically, throughout history, there have been multiple reports of this being the feminine divine called the lady in different countries. She has shown herself in different types of forms, and we'll be touching on these forms, what these forms are, and what they promise. And oftentimes, they're promising this being is promising similar things as to riches, wealth, and something in reward in the next life. And a lot of times this female entity has presented itself in a glowing female a manner, and it called itself holy, comforting, and authoritative. And in my opinion, of what I've read and what we have researched, is that there's a common theme and common pattern, and these beings appear to men, and what we found is, and they're promising things that men desire a lot of times. So what we'll do is basically start off with the history of how, what were the earlier sightings, and how throughout the history, what religions it has affected, and what's still happening today in our modern day. So Sam, if you can get started with this, we'll appreciate it.
Hello, hi everyone. It's nice to speak with you here. So let's start speaking about the lady without further ado. So the lady, especially in the modern history, was known since the Portugal incident, the Lady of Fatima, where 3 kids have seen a feminine figure that told them a prophetic revelation about some sort of apocalyptic wars and catastrophe that's about to come in, and promised that there will be sightings that all people will see, and people were anticipating it. Showed up few times, and people not everyone could see this feminine figure more than the kids. The humans, or the people, the public who were there, saw a ball of light moving around. Some of them thought it's the sun moving and dancing and coming closer to humans, and it affected some people in 1917 that they started to have healing miracles. People who had problems, physical problems, or started to get healed. Another one known in the country of Egypt, because this is related to what's going to happen in the modern time now, is the feminine Marian apparitions that shows across Egypt and Asyut and Zaytun. This has been seen not only by Christians, by Muslims as well. The lights were off in the city, and in Cairo, people started to see what they claimed as glowing pigeons, white like doves. And some people, like Cynthia Nelson, she was a professor, American professor, living there in Egypt. She says she saw glowing lights moving around, and people started to have a sense of also peaceful sense, healings. The same thing happened across Egypt until modern times. People have even medical reports of miraculous healing from eye problems, from sightings, or even walking disabilities.
Yeah, just Sam, let me add to that the incidents that happened in modern day in Egypt. One is in the year 2000, and the other one in 2009, which was even on TV shows. Until now, there are video recordings of a glowing figure above the church that you can see it until now on YouTube with colorful, because it was in 2009. It's just something like in the recent modern days. Yeah, you can go ahead, son.
So, is this something new? Because now we've been hearing about it in the UFO communities, the New Age spirituality communities. Everyone has been talking about something is about to happen. Based on my research, I spoke to people even since the hippie movement. They had the same idea of something is coming, something is coming, the old goddess. Who is this old goddess? When you look in the history, like in real ancient times, you'll find it available across almost all religious communities, especially the ones which were not following full monotheism. So they didn't think only that she is the mother goddess of or mother nature, but also there was something else around her. It wasn't a straightforward tradition. This archetype has happened even from Mesopotamia, ancient Egypt, the Levant, Arabia, even known in Scandinavian and Hindu traditions. We can, if we unpack each one of them, we will find a lot of similarities between them. So all have the cow imagery. So in Egypt or even in the UFO community now, people speak about Hathor, the lady who have cow head or cow horns with a sun around above her head. This coming from Egypt. If we look in Damona in Celtic traditions, it was also goddess related to cows, and they always had a feline lioness face, which is all about when there's power, wrath, and dominance. So she have always two types. One which is the motherhood and the nourishment, which always in all history was coming into relating to her with some sexual rites that used to be around temples in this time. So yeah, so this is starts from about the history about the lady. You will always find her available in people who come closer to her. Let's look into one of them. There is always a pattern that's seen when people come to experience the lady, even if they have a specific religion. It goes with some sort of a deviation into something else related to astrology, healing, and Reiki, and all these new age mixed with old age stuff. For example, we had something called, which is new, called the Baha'i faith, where Mirza Hussein Ali Nuri, who is the creator of this religion, so called, after being in a dungeon and spiritually broken for years, he got healed by seeing a lady floating in the sky and giving him revelations about the end of the world. And he started a new faith, which is almost accepting everything, accepting all behaviors, doesn't have specific rules of guidances, however, relies a lot on symbolism and astral worship related to the skies, the stars, just like all old traditions. So yeah, guys.
Yeah, that reminds me also with the goddess in the in Arabian Peninsula, in the pre-Islamic time, Al-Uzza, that she was depicted as well with a star above her head, and she's holding swords with a lioness next to her, right? Which is this lioness thing also connected to Hathor, because Hathor, she has like two personalities. Hathor, the cow-headed god, this is like the motherly one. At the same time, she has another face, which is Sekhmet, the goddess of war, that have a lioness head, and she drink the blood of the people and initiate wars and killings.
One of the known things about people who come to experience the lady, they all lean towards, which is something different than just being a spiritual person, also lean into being a vegetarian person. This has been seen across history, especially which is relates to the Indian traditions, which avoids eating the meat because of some in some aspects of Hinduism associates the cows that the Hindu gods live within it, and the lokas, which are the realms of the devas, can be interacted with by even some Indian researchers spoke about this, consuming something related to cows, but not the cows themselves. We find even we're not talking only about Islamic perspective. Even in biblical traditions, the feminine figure was referred to Asherah or Ashtaroth. It was always had warnings from relating to such deity. We notice that in all Abrahamic or all monotheistic traditions, it warns from something that seems to be deceptive about people who follow this tradition, which keeps on promising them something that will be happening, some wealth, some healing, and at some point, people get disappointed at the end of it. We have here people we spoke about in this community in UFOs have had interactions with the lady, and some have been having haunted by her. I think it's an important topic to speak about. Imran or Farouk, would you like to add anything, Rafa?
This is very interesting, bro, and I think it's a very pertinent topic as well, considering the newfound interest in the lady, especially within the UFO.
Points in history where she would show up to people, promise them wealth, riches, if they obey and like follow her commands. But after a while, you notice a trend where she just disconnects from these people. She doesn't show up anymore. So what usually tends to happen is these people who were worshiping her would increase their worship, increase their demoral, remove their morality even more, just to please her, to gain her back. But what I've seen is that they never get in contact with her again. That's what I've noticed. But Sam, what about you? Have you come across something similar or different?
I think Sam's still mute.
Sorry. Yeah, no, from my perspective, yes, it's always the same. Most of the time, it doesn't show up after big promises, and they live upon it. They build a cult or some sort of deviation of the tradition that they're already following, and they keep on the promise until nothing happens. The only times it used to actually manifest to people, only in the older times. So, because in the older times, people would go farther, people would have these things open, would do the sexual things to please the entities, to show up, or go to the worst point, just sacrifices. So maybe because people don't go to that far, it doesn't show up as more. But well, I hope people don't go this far anyway. Let it be not show.
Yeah, I believe that's exactly what happened with the P Diddy, that she didn't protect him, as well as now we can see that Bledsoe changed the date of what's supposed to be happening, and then he moved it farther, and we don't know how farther he will be pushing it until maybe the end of his life. I'm not sure. We'll see.
Yeah, it's interesting because there's a pattern here. Whether it's UFO entities, these greys, whether it's the lady, whether it's the Council of Nine, the same pattern seems to emerge amongst all of them, which is one, there is an element of deception involved, where things are promised but not delivered. But what ends up happening over time is this shift in spiritual beliefs and moral outlook on life, especially sexual practices.
Also, what about the link to Egypt? Now, that's another common theme, I guess. It seems like that's apparent in all of these cases, whether it's with UFO experiences, abductions. People that have been abducted seem to get this new sense of interest in Egyptology, ancient Egyptology. Same with the lady, same with the Council of Nine and other entities that have emerged. So what's going on? Have you guys, again, anything else you can tell us about this link to ancient Egypt, which keeps coming up over and over again?
Yeah, well, right now, a lot of people from the New Age are started to get into the ancient Egyptian religions, and too many people from the West doing worship for Hathor or Sekhmet, specifically Sekhmet, her other face, and they go worshiping her statues, doing a yearly pilgrimage. And they do that asking for help, for fertility, for women who cannot have babies. And they are even doing some YouTube channels teaching people how to worship Sekhmet. Even there is a very small old building. It's like a temple in the United States for worshiping Sekhmet.
Yeah, that's actually in Nevada, in the deserts of Nevada, which is weird that this is in Nevada, out of every place.
Haven't we seen similar things with Aleister Crowley and Jack Parsons, where I know it's not necessarily the lady, but it's a similar being that promises similar things. But I think it came in a masculine form. I could be wrong, but
Yeah, so both of them actually had experiences with the lady. Especially Aleister Crowley didn't write much about it, but Jack Parsons did, and to him it was like the one that gave him instructions on how to create what they called them based on more popular happening, some wealth. When there's power, wrath, and dominance. So she have always two types.
day. So Sam, if you can get started with this, yeah, we'll appreciate it.
Hello, hi everyone. It's nice to speak with you here. So let's start speaking about the lady without further ado. So the lady, especially in the modern history, was known since the Portugal incident, the Lady of Fatima, where three kids have seen a feminine figure that told them a prophetic revelation about some sort of apocalyptic wars and catastrophe that's about to come in, and promised that there will be sightings that all people will see, and people were anticipating it. It showed up few times, and people didn't. Not everyone could see this feminine figure more than the kids. The humans or the people, the public who were there, saw a ball of light moving around. Some of them thought it's the sun moving and dancing and coming closer to humans, and it affected some people in 1917 that they started to have healing miracles. People who had problems, physical problems, or started to get healed. Another one known in the country of Egypt, because this is related to what's going to happen in the modern time now, is the feminine Marian apparitions that shows across Egypt in Asyut and Zaytun. This has been seen not only by Christians, by Muslims as well. The lights were off in the city, and in Cairo, people started to see what they claimed as glowing pigeons, white like doves. And some people, like Cynthia Nelson, she was a professor, American professor, living there in Egypt. She says she saw glowing lights moving around, and people started to have a sense of also peaceful sense, healings. The same thing happened across Egypt until modern times. People have even medical reports of miraculous healing from eye problems, from sightings, or even walking disabilities.
Yeah, just Sam, let me add to that the incidents that happened in modern day Egypt. One is in the year 2000, and the other one in 2009, which was even on TV shows. Until now, there are video recordings of a glowing figure above the church that you can see it until now on YouTube with colorful, because it was in 2009. It's just something like in the recent modern days. Yeah, you can go ahead, son.
So, is this something new? Because now we've been hearing about it in the UFO communities, the New Age spirituality communities. Everyone has been talking about something is about to happen. Based on my research, I spoke to people even since the hippie movement. They had the same idea of something is coming, something is coming, the old goddess. Who is this old goddess? When you look in the history, like in real ancient times, you'll find it available across almost all religious communities, especially the ones which were not following full monotheism. So they didn't think only that she is the mother goddess of or mother nature, but also there was something else around her. It wasn't a straightforward tradition. This archetype has happened even from Mesopotamia, ancient Egypt, the Levant, Arabia, even known in Scandinavian and Hindu traditions. We can, if we unpack each one of them, we will find a lot of similarities between them. So all have the cow imagery. So in Egypt, or even in the UFO community now, people speak about Hathor, the lady who have cow head or cow horns with a sun around above her head. This coming from Egypt. If we look in Damona in Celtic traditions, it was also goddess related to cows, and they always had a feline lioness face, which is all about when there's power, wrath, and dominance. So she have always two types. One which is the motherhood and the nourishment, which always in all history was coming into relating to her with some sexual rites that used to be around temples in this time. So yeah, so this is starts from about the history about the lady. You will always find her available in people who come closer to her. Let's look into one of them. There is always a pattern that's seen when people come to experience the lady, even if they have a specific religion. It goes with some sort of a deviation into something else related to astrology, healing, and Reiki, and all these new age mixed with old age stuff. For example, we had something called, which is new, called the Baha'i faith, where Mirza Hussein Ali Nuri, who is the creator of this religion, so called, after being in a dungeon and spiritually broken for years, he got healed by seeing a lady floating in the sky and giving him revelations about the end of the world. And he started a new faith, which is almost accepting everything, accepting all behaviors, doesn't have specific rules of guidances, however, relies a lot on symbolism and astral worship related to the skies, the stars, just like all traditions. So yeah, guys.
Yeah, that reminds me also with the goddess in Arabian Peninsula, in the pre-Islamic time, Al-Uzza, that she was depicted as well with a star above her head, and she's holding swords with a lioness next to her, right? Which is this lioness thing also connected to Hathor, because Hathor, she has like two personalities. Hathor, the cow-headed god, this is like the motherly one. At the same time, she has another face, which is Sekhmet, the goddess of war, that have a lioness head, and she drink the blood of the people and initiate wars and killings.
One of the known things about people who come to experience the lady, they all lean towards, which is something different than just being a spiritual person, also lean into being a vegetarian person. This has been seen across history, especially which is relates to the Indian traditions, which avoids eating the meat because of some in some aspects of Hinduism associates the cows that the Hindu gods live within it, and the lokas, which are the realms of the devas, can be interacted with by even some Indian researchers spoke about this, consuming something related to cows, but not the cows themselves. We find even we're not talking only about Islamic perspective. Even in biblical traditions, the feminine figure was referred to Asherah or Ashtaroth. It was always had warnings from relating to such deity. We notice that in all Abrahamic or all monotheistic traditions, it warns from something that seems to be deceptive about people who follow this tradition, which keeps on promising them something that will be happening, some wealth, some healing, and at some point, people get disappointed at the end of it. We have here people we spoke about in this community in UFOs have had interactions with the lady, and some have been having haunted by her. I think it's an important topic to speak about. Imran or Farouk, would you like to add anything, or Afak?
This is very interesting, bro, and I think it's a very pertinent topic as well, considering the newfound interest in the lady, especially within the UFO community, the encounters people have had. So we've had Jake Barber, who had an encounter with a feminine spirit, as you referred to, when he retrieved the egg. Then you have Chris Bledsoe, more popularly, who's known to have his encounters with the lady, and the revelations she gives him. So I think as modern manifestations within the UFO sphere, they're quite prevalent, and they're becoming more prevalent. And Bledsoe obviously is getting a lot more traction because of his encounters with the lady. You have interest from the CIA and other intelligence communities that are really interested in this. Now, obviously, they have their take on or their reasons to be interested, because it seems like they know the history of people that have encountered the lady, and this inevitably leads to downloads, as they're referred to, or certain pieces of information, new technology, whatever the case may be. So they obviously have an interest in this topic. But I think one thing I do want to ask you guys about is, when you look at these feminine deities or the divine feminine throughout history, at least from my superficial research on this topic, one thing I saw a point of contact I noticed across cultures and time when it came to encounters with the lady was that normally there were two things that were at the front of this. One was a new existential or ontological understanding of reality, and the other thing was a new moral code that this entity was pushing over time. So, for example, in the case of Hathor, the whole idea of worship was linked to sexuality, and therefore worship was a sexual practice for the people that worship this entity. It became a part of worship. And there was a lot of, if you think of it, for at least from a traditional sense, moral how would you say, strange moral practices, which were not traditionally recognized as morally right or correct. And you see this with other encounters with the lady, even with not maybe even the lady, but the nine, the Council of Nine, which in the 70s, from the 50s to the 70s, which was huge. They also pushed this new moral agenda. So have you guys noticed or picked up something more on the moral aspects or teachings of these entities or beings, and how they try to change that through history? Is there a pattern? I'd like to hear from you guys.
So the pattern that I have noticed, beside being open about sexuality, so it was known in Babylon. There was temples known for feminine figure, different ones like Inanna, Ishtar. it was available with different names. They used to have, as you said, not only sexuality as a worship. Worship is part of sexuality. Like it's all interactive. Nowadays, what I see, unfortunately, from my research, I've seen many people, not just with the ladies specifically, but who open into such practices really coming from the, let's say, the download or the main framework from coming from the lady, that people practice New Age spirituality, C5, and being in the moment, and all these hippie ideas. When you look at the people who experience most with non-human intelligence generally, because we believe that the lady could be not a lady, but could take different forms. Yes, many people, and based on my personal interactions, are not really in line with what you can call the natural disposition of humans when it comes to sexuality.
Let me add to that. Remember the TV show American Gods? There was a lady from the ancient gods that people used to worship in that TV show by having orgies and even having sex with her, and then she swallowed them inside her. That was also seems like it was a sacred ritual of having sex all together with orgies and then with her in person.
One of the known figures that not everyone knows that he might be related to the lady, but you can find that on Wikipedia. P. Diddy, Puff Daddy, the person who's now already in jail for sexual problems, he considered that, he said that he believes that the creator or the God is a female. And if you look it up online, yes, Puff Daddy said before that he is a UFO experience, and he had telepathic communications with aliens before. He doesn't always speak about it, but if you look it up, he said it once, and the second time he said he believes in the lady, and he have a big tattoo. I'll probably post it in the comments here, with how he have a big tattoo on his back with the lady looking like a bit of a reptile figure, and he says that she is the one who grants him protection. I'll post it here in a minute.
But she hasn't really protected him too well, has she?
Yeah, that's the thing. When I said people linger into the entities and then poof.
Yeah, and so this leads me to another question, and I guess we can open it up to everyone listening as well. We have a few guests on as well. So one thing I'm really interested in knowing is, from your research, have you guys picked up on the element of deception? Because this is something me and Farouk noted when it came to the general overall UFO phenomenon. This is something, researchers like Jacques Vallée, etc., have mentioned. There's a clear element of deception involved in encounters. Is that true of the lady as well, or is that not the case?
If you want, I can add to this. So when I read about this, there was a common theme of promises, failed promises, and never delivering. So we have seen multiple points in history where she would show up to people, promise them wealth, riches, if they obey and follow her commands. But after a while, you notice a trend where she just disconnects from these people. She doesn't show up anymore. So what usually tends to happen is these people who were worshiping her would increase their worship, increase their remove their morality even more, just to please her, to gain her back. But what I've seen is that they never get in contact with her again. That's what I've noticed. But Sam, what about you? Have you come across something similar or different?
I think Sam's still mute.
Sorry. Yeah, no, from my perspective, yes, it's always the same. Most of the time, it doesn't show up after big promises, and they live upon it. They build a cult or some sort of deviation of the tradition that they're already following, and they keep on the promise until nothing happens. The only times it used to actually manifest to people, only in the older times. So, because in the older times, people would go farther. People would have these things open, would do the sexual things to please the entities, or to show up, or go to the worst point, just sacrifices. So maybe because people don't go to that far, it doesn't show up as more. But well, I hope people don't go this far anyway. Let it be not show.
Yeah, I believe that's exactly what happened with the P Diddy, that she didn't protect him, as well as now we can see that Bledsoe changed the date of what's supposed to be happening, and then he moved it farther, and we don't know how farther he will be pushing it until maybe the end of his life. I'm not sure. We'll see.
Yeah, it's interesting because so there's a pattern here. Whether it's UFO entities, these greys, whether it's the lady, whether it's the Council of Nine, the same pattern seems to emerge amongst all of them, which is one, there is an element of deception involved, where things are promised but not delivered. But what ends up happening over time is this shift in spiritual beliefs and moral outlook on life, especially sexual practices. Also, what about the link to Egypt? Now, that's sort of another common theme, I guess. It seems like that's apparent in all of these cases, whether it's with UFO experiences, abductions. People that have been abducted seem to get this new sense of interest in Egyptology, ancient Egyptology. Same with the lady, same with the Council of Nine and other entities that have emerged. So what's going on? Have you guys, again, anything else you can tell us about this link to ancient Egypt, which keeps coming up over and over again?
Yeah, well, right now, a lot of people from the New Age are started to get into the ancient Egyptian religion, and too many people from the West doing worship for Hathor or Sekhmet, specifically Sekhmet, her other face, and they go worshiping her statues, doing a yearly pilgrimage. And they do that asking for help, for fertility, for women who cannot have babies, and they are even doing some YouTube channels teaching people how to worship Sekhmet. Even there is a very small old building. It's like a temple in the United States for worshiping Sekhmet.
Yeah, that's actually in Nevada, in the deserts of Nevada, which is weird that this is in Nevada, out of every place.
Haven't we seen similar things with Aleister Crowley and Jack Parsons, where I know it's not necessarily the lady, but it's a similar being that promises similar things. But I think it came in a masculine form. I could be wrong, but
yeah. So both of them actually had experiences with the lady. Especially Aleister Crowley didn't write much about it, but Jack Parsons did, and to him it was like the one that gave him instructions on how to create what they called the Moon Child, who they called himself, like, by Jack Parsons, the Dajjal, that to bring the Antichrist. So they also related not just to a feminine entity, specifically to Hathor, because what the thing about ancient Egypt, because Aleister Crowley was fascinated. He learned Arabic. He even learned the Quran when he lived in Egypt for years. Just try to understand how to live there, to get closer to the ancient Egyptian stuff, which he came out with Thelema. I believe that they are really related on it, especially what they call chaos magic. So obviously chaos magic, they were known to have sexual parties, if you can say so, by Aleister Crowley and Jack Parsons, sometimes together. It was a known thing at that time. I think they all to get knowledge that Jack Parsons maybe ended up with doing the propulsion engines, because now we're coming again with Tim Taylor working on rockets and he had Bledsoe around him and tried to steal downloads from him, which could be coming from the same entity that's always been giving Egyptians or the people over time to be the center of their attention. We know, like, the ancient Egyptian empire have collapsed. The ancient Mesopotamian one with the Tower of Babel, even in the Bible and everywhere, said that has collapsed. And they were also looking in towards the lady was in control of them.
Yeah, it's fascinating stuff. So Crowley seems to pop up over and over again, and what's very interesting, I think Crowley is a type of missing link when it comes to all of these different entities, whether it's the extraterrestrials, the Council of Nine, or any other entities. Crowley seems to be, a prominent figure. Interestingly, he did a magical workings in Cairo in 1904, called the Cairo Workings. And during this time, long story short, he basically was given the law where he received his revelation. And what's very fascinating is in 1947, just after the death of Crowley, his number one student, if you like, his the one that was to carry on his work, I think his name was Stanfield Jones, if I'm not mistaken. He shifted the philosophical outlook on these entities. So up until 47, these were recognized as spiritual entities, whether it's demonic or angelic, however they interpreted it. And in 47, there was a shift in the way they referred to these entities, and they started to refer to them as extraterrestrials or extraterrestrial entities. Fast forward, a couple of decades, from the 50s to 70s, the Council of Nine, again, contact with these entities through various popular figures at the time, they presented themselves as extraterrestrial entities. So it seems like it's the same entities, or the same base entity behind all of these different faces, whether it's the lady, the Council of Nine, extraterrestrials, the Greys, whatever it is. For me, at least, that's what it seems to come across as when you start looking at all the data. It's something behind all of these things just manifesting in a different way. Is there anything else about the lady which sort of continues to crop up over and over again if you look at it throughout history? Some sort of similar pattern.
The idea of what people are now thinking about, especially from Christian perspective or Western perspective, they think about the Holy Trinity of the God, the Father, and the Holy Spirit. Think about the Holy Spirit being the divine feminine, or maybe they move it into four items, which clear directs to polytheism and blasphemy, but thinking that the persona of the Holy Spirit is actually the divine feminine, this is one of the things that available even in ancient Egypt before Hathor herself. In the ancient Egyptian language, when you say the word soul is called Ba. Many people here who ever heard about ancient Egyptology, Ka, Ba, Ach, like the soul was made of three things. And the word that they used for this entity was Bat. When they put the T, it's like how in Arabic we put the Ta marbuta, is to make it feminine, like a feminine spirit. And they used to draw her as a cow. So this is even since before, like from prehistoric Egyptians, before the dynastic ones.
Yes, fascinating. I don't know if Farouk or anyone else wants to chime in, but I'm getting loads of questions based on what you're saying. Is there a link between, or have you come across a link between the lady and, if you go to ancient Egypt, so the idea of the Ennead, the nine, and Atum was at the top of the whole thing, and then these nine were like aspects of the same being, but it was nine different distinct characteristics of it. You don't hear of a feminine deity amongst the nine, unless I'm mistaken. How did it, where does Hathor come in all of these beings?
Okay, so in the usual Ennead of Egypt, when Atum is on the beginning, there was feminine ones, but they were not deities. They were more expression. So let's say Geb, which is the earth, Nut is the sky. So it was like how the people would pronounce the things, maybe not in English, but in some Eastern languages until now. Even in Arabic, when we say al-nafs, al-nafs al-mutma'inna, we call the soul in a feminine aspect. So this is how they used to draw these things, Shu, Tifnut, Geb, Nut. But then when there is Isis and Osiris, this is where Hathor comes in. Because Isis and Hathor by name, Hath, Hor. Hor is Horus, who is the son of Isis and Osiris. They used to be a trinity of Father, Son, Holy Spirit, where Osiris, supposedly as the father, is the one who judges the people in the afterlife, in the ancient Egyptian judgment day. So yeah, the lady is always prominent figure in the daily life, not in the mythology that how of the creation, but comes into a deity that they fear, respect, and help them with magic.
Yeah, let's connect also that it's like right after the ninth deities, that which is, as Sam just mentioned, earth and the sky and the water and all of that. Isis, she became Hathor in a way after she had a fight with her son Horus, and he cut off her head, his mother's head. He cut it off, and then she used magic to replace it with the cow head, so she became from Isis to Hathor later on.
Yeah, that's funny. That sounds like the Hindu mythology about Ganesha, the elephant head, deity, who used to be a kid, and after being decapitated from his head, they replaced it with an animal, and that's how he became one like that.
Yeah, and similar to that, you also have in Hindu, like the mythology, you also have similar being as Hathor. I think it's called Kali, and she also promises similar things. If you read about her, and she's also known as a demon slayer. And but the funny part is, from my reading or my research on her, is she's oftentimes depicted in a very explicit manner. And second is that she's usually also like killing gods, not just demons. She's also the slayer of gods. And there's a whole cult behind it. There's a specific group within Hinduism that worship her. And oftentimes the practices of worship is similar to orgies, as you mentioned, that are taking place with Hathor. And one point I did want to mention is backtrack a little bit, going back to the historical events, especially when it comes to Portugal and some of these sightings of the divine feminine in Egypt. A lot of times they're conflicting reports. I've seen people reporting a female entity and some others reporting an orb of light. But then I've recently come across some reports saying they've seen crafts instead of a lady or a light ball. It was like a huge crowd that hovered over the whole population in Portugal. So I'm not sure if there is any link between this, but it definitely seems like it's very similar to what UFOs, modern day UFOs are. So yeah.
Well, nowadays, this comes maybe in a different perspective, but I have seen videos available on YouTube, but unfortunately they're in Arabic. People in Egypt until now saying that they have been met by what they see as the Virgin Mary, but at the same time they don't see her face, because in reality none of us have met the Virgin Mary to know how she looks like in reality. But they say a face full of light, but a feminine figure, and have healed me. And since then, she comes and goes and visit them. And even if they are not Christians, but if they live around areas, especially in the south area of Egypt, which used to be a place full of temples. But nowadays, since the Roman colonization of Egypt, most of the main Coptic Egyptians became Christians, but they lived in the south where these temples used to be. And until now, it still, I would say, haunts them.
Yeah, putting in mind also that I remember multiple Egyptian famous actors had visions of like a lady that they connected to Marian apparition or something in their houses, in their own rooms. Even they are not Christians. And now in the new Egyptian Grand Museum that was opened I think few months ago, now they have in front of the entrance multiple statues of Sekhmet in behind in front of the gate. That gives me creepy feelings.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are from Egypt, so you guys are probably the best people to be talking about this topic, as far as its historical relevance and link to ancient Egypt is concerned. I do have another question. Maybe Farouk can chime in on this as well. Like, we've spoken a lot about the ancient connection, or that they draw upon themselves. It seems like these entities want people to know that they go way back, that they're very ancient. Now, this could be a type of socio-psychological ploy to, build credibility, if you like, that, we've been around for a long time, much longer than you, so we know what's going on. We seeded you, we created you, all of these types of narratives. But Farouk, what about, you've done a lot of research in sort of modern, governmental aspects of the UFO research. Is there any sense or evidence of worship of these entities in people or amongst people in certain programs, etc.?
There seems to be, yeah, there absolutely seems to be. So just to go back a little bit, actually talking about the claim to ancientness. Now, I think if we're talking in essence of the whole of this research, what if we just take an overview of it all? Something is manifesting as and claiming to be an ancient deity from the past, a female deity, and it picks a victim, and I'll use that word clearly, victim. There's a young lady who's on.
Ferg, I think you got cut off there.
Sorry, I think I knocked mute as I was talking. Sorry about that. So there's a young lady on Twitter called Fringe, and she spoke a bit about her experience with the lady and what happened and how the being sort of tried to possess her, right? What if we're looking at an overview of the whole thing? What happens is, and this is historical, like it's not just now, these creatures, the non-human intelligence itself is used to coming to mankind, presenting itself in a particular way and trying to manipulate and socially engineer human beings to worship them. Sometimes it's successful, and you can see that in history, like you said, Sami and Hussam, you have mentioned today, as well as you have, Fark, that generally we can see among the Pharaonic dynasty and the Egyptian empires, the multiple different dynasties that existed, you can see that they had a lot of success there. And there were certain elite individuals who had benefited from closeness to these creatures. I don't want to call them deities, right? And they benefited from the knowledge that these creatures gave them, that gave them superiority over the rest of mankind at their time. That made them the elites. They became remembered in history as, powerful leaders of the world. And I think what we have today is a very similar situation ongoing in America and in the West. I don't want to just blame America, because I've spent a very long time now researching Britain's involvement, and they get away with a lot of things. America and the American government and the deep state of America, and they get blamed a lot, yeah. And Britain kind of is just standing over in the corner, whistling away as if they're doing nothing. No, they're absolutely involved. But what I seem to see is that this is what's happening in these programs. They are absolutely desperate for the types of information they can get from the non-human intelligence. and that being an insight into the technology that they've recovered, which I think that they've had some success in the reverse engineering, but they haven't, completely got it. This is why you have figures like Tyler Durden, aka Tim Taylor, running around trying to find people who are in contact with the lady because they want the experience to give them information. Who have you met? What has she said? Can you ask her about this? Can you ask her about that? Because they're desperate for information related to projects they're working on. Yeah, so that's one of the types of information that they're chasing. And this was similar things when the Muslims were the superpower of the world. We have it in our own historical books that some individuals were in contact with these non-human intelligences and they wanted to be successful. They wanted to be rich, and some of them got rich through showing supernatural capabilities that these non-human intelligences would help them with, and in return they would worship them. They would slaughter animals for them. They would commit heinous, disgusting, perverted acts on young boys, and they would slaughter. They would really do some disgusting things. I don't want to mention it here because I'm sure you can imagine. Just think about Epstein and the missing children in America. And I know I mention this a lot, but that was the type of behaviour that was being pushed by these non-human intelligences. Now, why am I bringing that up when the lady seems to be? I think the lady is the instigator, the one who starts the initiation. Yeah, and then you like the Pied Piper, gets people going, and they want to know what she has, and they'll do anything to keep that contact going. They'll do anything to keep in the favor of the lady. So if the lady says, slaughter a chicken, they're going to slaughter a chicken. You can't tell anyone that you got to slaughter a chicken. You got to do this secretly, and they'll do it. I think maybe Bledsoe's had a few experiences with the lady, and perhaps he's not being completely forthcoming with exactly, what he's getting from her. But the government want to know. And that's the second type of information. So the first type is understanding how things work in order to gain an edge or to become famous for inventing something. Yeah, like Tim Taylor does. He seeks out downloads so that he can become a millionaire and create new inventions. The other side of it is what people would call the remote viewing, which is essentially a spy program, where you can spy and get current information that's going on. And we find that especially, during when the Muslims were the superpower, people who were in contact with the non-human intelligences, the so-called Sufi masters, they were getting information about what their followers were doing so that they could report back to them what they did that day. They'd say, I saw you doing this and you were doing that. And their followers would be enthralled. Like, wow, this guy's supernatural. I was on my own working in my farm. He could see me. He must be, very holy because he's got information that only I could possibly know. Similar to how the clairvoyants and the mediums operate. But what we've got here is a program that's operating like that based on what beings like the lady can provide for them. What's Russia doing? What's these people doing? They call it remote viewing. It's just another word for spying. And it's spiritual spying. They're using these non-human intelligences to bring information about what's going on in other places. And it's not for free. You have to do it. They don't just willy-nilly give it over. So if you're in these programs, you'll do whatever it takes to get that data. And the final thing is future information. Again, we have the same type of instances going on, and this is in the when the Muslims were the superpower, like America is today, and you had people who were desperately trying to find out what's going to happen in the future. So they would go to the clairvoyants and the mediums to try and find out future information, and they call that Project Looking Glass today. It's just essentially trying to get some information about events that are going to happen. Now, these creatures don't know the future. They only know a little bit about what's going on. Some could call it educated guessing, or you could say that they're listening into higher. I know that's very popular now. People talk about the hierarchy of beings according to Tim Taylor. He just borrowed that from existing religions. But there is a different creature called the angel. The angel is above the non-human intelligence, and they are not the non-human intelligence. They're different things, yeah. But why that has to be pointed out is the malaika, the angels, do have information about, what's what the decree of God is for that year. So they will be implementing the commands of God. And so the non-human intelligence themselves will be trying to get that information. It's mentioned in Quran, and I believe it was more than likely mentioned in the Bible, but removed for some reason or another. And I know there's some really good Christian researchers out there who have made note of that. It seems to be that some things were removed from the Bible to sort of hide certain information, and it is pertaining to this non-human intelligence. But anyway, I don't want to divert then. If there's any Christians who want to, jump in on that, I don't mind, yeah? Just to finalize the point. So these non-human intelligences do try to snatch away some information, and they share it among mankind, and these human beings who are in contact with them are desperate for it, and that's what gives people like Bledsoe their infamy. Out of the 100 things he says, he might get one thing right, but that's what everybody remembers. And this is the key thing: the lady and the types like the lady. It's not always a lady, but it seems to be, especially in the Western world. I'll give you another example of Fringe. She's a lady herself who had an experience with the lady and understood immediately that there was something wrong. But because Bledsoe, a man who's got a lot of ego, maybe a lady's a little bit more humble in that way, and she, like Fringe, she recognised straight away there's something not right here. Yeah? But egotistical men, like a Bledsoe, he can't recognise that when one lie is told, you can't trust it. It cannot be divine in any way, shape or form if one thing comes from it that's untrue, or it tells you to do something that's against prophetic tradition. If it's telling you to do something that, say, Moses or Jesus didn't do, yeah, and it's telling you to do it, it cannot be divinely inspired. But because of the ego of man, they're not going to recognize that, and they're not going to stand up against it. So, I think overall that's what we've picked up. Well, I picked up on here today, that these beings come, they want to be worshipped, they visit 2, 3, 4, however many people. They create this buzz of ego that I've been selected, I'm special, I've got a task to do. And then in some cases abandons them completely and leaves them living that life of, I was visited and I have a mission, and they never ever get fulfillment of it. Or they get a number of visits, and then you attract the attention of the insiders or the program, who wants to come to you and snatch information that you're getting from the being. Or 3, that you will have a prolonged experience with them, and it gets progressively worse. Yeah. So hopefully I did a good job in summarising it. We are open now to anyone who wants to jump in. If you've got anything you want to share, or if we've made a mistake, or you've got some new research, or you don't agree completely, we're very open to discussion. And it's not we're not here to lecture you guys. Yeah. So if you want to join in, just please put your hand up and I'll let you in. To Sam, you had your hand up, bro.
Yeah, I was going to mention something weird, but not everyone would like to talk about it, that some of the experiencers of the lady have what seems to be certain stimulation of what people can call the succubus phenomena, but not negatively. So when the man, not the woman, experience the lady, some of them, and it doesn't have to be a physical stimulation, some sort of a mental, or puts them into a theta wave state, like the one that Bledsoe uses to call in the orbs. But during the first experience with the lady, if you notice when it happens to a man, they're always in a broken state. So traumatic experiences then moves to a sexual experience, not physically, but a stimulation. I've spoken to some experiences with the lady who opened up about this, but they wouldn't say it in public. That was a weird thing, because people are known, even in old times, to have experiences with their, what they call goddess, or entity that they are devout to.
Yeah, I wanted also to mention, because I remember something when we discussed, guys, about someone that had an experience with these kind of NHIs and then let down by them. I wanted to mention a recent incident in modern Egypt. I think it happened 1 year ago. when a lady joined. She's a flight attendant in a very famous company, and she joined the New Age spirituality movement. And one day she met one of the gurus, and then suddenly one night she saw two figures that convinced her that they are Moses and Jesus, and she is the chosen lady, and the world will end right now. You don't have enough time, and catastrophic events will start to happening starting tomorrow. So she got convinced that she wouldn't like her baby child to see these events, so she killed her own daughter, and now she's in jail.
That is awful. God will deal with that. We have Justy Sunflower up on the board with the hand up. So Justy, jump in there.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to comment. I have no experience with the lady, and I find it fascinating, but and great discussion. But remote viewing, I do have experience with, and basically, I wanted to say it's not through spirits that you remote view. It's through your subconscious and connection to all that is, right? We're all connected when you think about it. We're all made of the same thing that's in the universe. There must be something connecting everything together. So, I'm not good at explaining it scientifically. I just know I've done it. And it came from my own subconscious and a technique that you use. So I just wanted to correct that.
No, I appreciate that. I know that there's, I'd say, majority opinion among the remote viewers is that it's a innate capability that some people seem to be able to tap into than others, right?
No, anyone can do it. You need to learn
some are
the
naturally gifted, and others.
Some are naturally, yeah. And what you're talking about is channeling. I mean, that's basically channeling. Yeah. But remote viewing is totally different. It's using the subconscious, everything. If you assume everything's connected, right, in some way, and there must be some sort of consciousness, grand consciousness, that everyone taps into and everything goes to, then you could say it's let's say like a computer. We're all data points, but we can connect into the grand computer.
So
that's one way of looking.
Yeah, may I ask a question then? When there's a false remote view, like say there's an error and it comes back, it's incorrect. What does that mean? Like, how does that work when it's viewing a thing?
Okay. So
how can it be wrong?
So it could be that basically you didn't use the protocols properly. It could be that there's times when you're better at it and you're more open to it, right? Your brain is clear. I'm not quite sure because I'm not a scientist. I only know by experience.
No.
But it could be I'm sure there's reasons. In fact, I'm sure they've studied this because there's lots of scientific data on this. Some say it's when I don't know if it has to do with the time or where the sun is at. I don't know, some crazy thing. Or it could be just you're not practiced enough. You'll always have some sort of correct data, but it's the interpretation of what you're receiving. Because remember, it's filtered through your brain and your life experiences. So if I'm sent to a scientific target, I might not really understand that something is a bacteria. I might see it as something else. Or my mind might get, simplex idea of bacteria. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
It's, And sometimes you can be sent to a target and you can go totally off target, but in the same area. I've done that.
Yeah, so, I think I was talking about false readings. I'll give you an example. There's some who have been adamant that they've seen this thing, like people who have remote viewed lost loved ones, for example, and they're adamant that that person, passed away, and it turns out it was a trick that was done on them. No one actually died, and the person they were remote viewing is still alive and was actually the interviewer, as an example. And the reason why I think that's problematic is because when you're tapping in, like you said, that from your perspective, it's like a scientific thing that you're tapping into the mainframe, if you like, the mainframe of consciousness, because it can give false readings, not incorrect or inaccurate or misunderstood readings, but actually directly false readings. It does open to there being another interpretation than you tapping into a consciousness.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, you're being given a vision of something that's not right, and that was done deliberately to you. Like, it weren't your fault.
Yeah, it could be that you're tapping into your tasker's subconscious, because that's a problem sometimes with remote viewing targets. That's why they like to do double blind remote viewing targets, tasking them, so that everyone's kind of blind and there's no overlay on it. So that could be that, or it could be it wasn't queued properly. It's just like when you do a search in Google for a specific topic, if you put the wrong search term in there. So it's really important to be able to queue your targets properly.
One last question for, because Sam's got his hand up. One last, if you don't mind waiting, Sam. So how would you say just hypothetically, if there is a false reading where you actually get wrong information, is that are you saying that that doesn't actually happen? It was just an issue with the uplink or whatever, and there is no such thing as a false reading, just that something went wrong?
No, there's let's say remote viewing, you get 75% right, but it could be your interpretation of your data, because in the end you have to take all your data points and conclude on what you're looking at. You do a summary. And it could be that you just don't understand what you're looking at. It could be that you didn't do your protocols properly. It could be that the tasker has overlay. It could be that you're having a bad day remote viewing and you've got tons of things on your brain. You've got your mortgage due and your kids driving you nuts. You're just not you're not connecting. There must be, I don't know what it is. I really don't understand, but I've had crazy correct sessions where I call target even before I start working the target. I've had crazy sessions where I can get a lot of data from target, and I amaze myself. I even taught someone in their first time doing it, they got target direct, no doubt about it. So I mean, I don't understand the science behind it, but I do know that it works, and I do know that it's not through an entity, it's through your own connection to the universe.
Is it possible that it's an entity, or you just emphatically know there's no way something's put that in my mind, that's something innate?
I don't see an entity. I don't get channeling. What I do is I put pen to paper and I get data points. So I'll start off with, the ideogram quickly and decipher that. Then I move into data points, which are taste, touch, smell. By the way, I haven't done this in a while, but so I might not remember. I'm not and then you go on to drawing the target, and then there's other movements you can do, and then there's a chart you do where you go over the data points again, and there's other things you put in there, and then you draw a target. So it's not through, and when you I've worked targets where I've seen pictures of what I'm looking at. I get a representation in my brain of what I'm looking at. So if it's a military target, I might see some guy dressed up in fatigues, or whatever, that my subconscious is telling me you're looking at a military target. Probably because I'm lazy, I get them right away. But so yeah, it's not and you see pictures, if you go deeper into target, you kind of get flashes at target site. So
I appreciate your response. I think it's still open for myself personally, and I'm not saying I've not had any experience with remote viewing, because when I was young. Lots of people try lots of different things, but as an adult, I think there is definitely due to us being electromagnetic experience that we're having, whether you're remote viewing or otherwise, if you have a sufficient let's call it a technology for a better word. If you have the right technology, you can implant things into people's brains, whether that be an image, a smell.
No.
Yeah, we can disagree, Justy. No problem.
I've had psychic experiences since I was little. So
yeah.
I don't know.
And I'm just saying it's possible that something's doing that to you rather than it being from yourself. But I appreciate the discussion, and it was thought-provoking nonetheless. I know a lot of you had your hands up, so I don't know who was first. So we'll go with you, Imran.
No, I just want to sort of highlight I think Justin mentioned interpretation of data. The keyword is interpretation, not only of data, but where the source is. Now, as she mentioned, that things are coming in, images, smells, etc. She can zone in on certain aspects. And there's no denying the subjective experience is real. She's had that, and thousands of people have that. However, our interpretation of the source, that's, again, a subjective interpretation of where it's actually coming from, what's actually going on. There's no way of definitively saying that the source is a supercomputer type of consciousness which we're all connecting into. That's an interpretation, but what's actually going on is always going to be beyond us, because we're shifting from the physical to the metaphysical. And to claim anything with 100% certainty from that perspective, I think, we can all have our perspectives on it, but we don't really know what the source is or what's actually going on. We can see it as I'm tapping into X or Y, and it's not channeling, but I'm getting information directly from a higher source. But what is that source? Is it actually a source, or is it an entity or a being? That's, again, down to our interpretation, because we simply can't go into that realm and see what's actually going on as a third person standing back and looking at the whole process.
Yes, Amazon, you can go ahead. It's your turn.
Okay, so I wanted to mention, because I understand the experience that Justy has spoken about, because I'm not going to talk about my personal experience, but I will speak about a researcher called Steve Mira. I think even Christopher's mentioned him before. He's a British researcher into both UAP and NHI, psychicship, mediumship, and remote viewing. So they, based on research and experimenting, they have realized there is something almost like a mechanism higher than what humans can see. That could be the source of the information working as a triangle. Imagine someone goes to a mediumship place, and the medium, as soon as you enter, tells you the name of your father, your mother, and your kids, and your job. There is something almost like a hidden cloud taking the information from somewhere and giving it to the other one. Yes, the subjective experience, you will receive the images, but the images are not 100% correct, because the source of the information is not perfect either. So I wouldn't call it the source or the source consciousness or the creating consciousness or the God consciousness, because if something can be wrong, maybe based on how we filter the data, but also if the mechanism itself doesn't work properly, maybe people will say, no, it's not channeling. Yes, because maybe your intention is not towards an entity, because the entities, from our perspective, likes to work in the shadows anyway. They don't want to be known. So, but they benefit from giving the people information because they do something in return.
Yeah, I agree. What we can do is we can go back to Justy and hear from her, and then maybe Imran has a question. I see the hand up there. So go ahead, Justy.
Okay, so long ago we thought, medicine and healing was witch doctors, and then we added science to everything, and we figured out, no, certain things do heal us, and there's bacteria. So I think, I don't really understand the science. My brain doesn't work that way, but there's someone named B who does. I don't know if she's able to talk about it, but basically you can look it up yourselves. Eventually science will prove certain things about our universe and how it works. And I think that's exciting. And it will no longer look like, uh, witch doctors. And I know everyone is spiritual. I believe in a creator, but I also think that there's also some sort of formula to the way our world works as well. There must be some way it works. It just doesn't, there's some sort of mechanisms that are in place. So I think, to kind of label it as a certain thing is really injustice, because I think humans are capable of this. Animals are capable of it. It's a survival mechanism that we were given because, how did we find water? How did we know we were in trouble or our loved ones in trouble? Everything's connected for a purpose. And we have the ability to protect ourselves in that way, or, utilize whatever that is. And I think that it's something that's been kind of dampened in us. But you'll see animals have it. Stare at someone, go to a mall, stare at someone while their back is turned for a while, see if they don't turn around. So, yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
And I do have a few questions because we're also live on TikTok where people have questions as well. But I just before that, I do want to let people know, if anyone down here, we have UFO Sarah to join in, Stone, Sadie, George. If you guys want to jump on, ask questions, please do so. Please request so we can get you in. But in the meantime, Imran, do you have any questions, or because I see your hand raised up? If not, then
just what? Oh, sorry. If you were sorry, fuck, you were referring to someone else.
No, it's fine. I think some people might be curious to know if Justy can maybe shed a bit more light on what she has done. Like, if she is this, because she said she has done this before. So just walk through what this process is like, if you don't mind sharing. And I think the other question is, have you worked with some private entities, or not entities meaning spirits, but organizations? Please, if you can answer those questions.
Yeah, no, I know what you're asking. Yeah. So, no, I learned this I have always had psychic experiences since I was little, I noticed. And as soon as I got a computer, I did the search terms and I wound up finding a remote viewing site. This is years ago, before it was very popular. Now it's a good thing it's popular. People are learning it. And because I wanted to understand, what is this, right? So basically, I did it for myself. I tried it for myself, and then I stopped because my life got busy. You need a lot of time to do this. It's a lot of practice and a lot of time, and I don't have that. But and I also I felt like I proved it to myself. I don't want to use it. So basically, it's putting pen to paper. First of all, there's a tasker who gives you a target, and that target is, let's say it's Eiffel Tower / France, and you're given numbers. So that's the tasker's job. And then the viewer's job is to take those numbers and decode them basically through your subconscious. And so you write the numbers down, you produce an ideogram, you decode that ideogram, you touch it, you say it's soft, wet, whatever, you write those descriptors down. And then you go through an S2, which is I'm trying to remember. It's all the descriptors, that you can, your subconscious, as you move really quickly, you're supposed to move quick because you don't want your ego to get involved. And once you start thinking, then you're using imagination. So it's just whatever comes flow to your subconscious. So you see red, you hear bells, whatever it is, you write down AOL, hear bells, whatever you can do, you can write that down as an AOL. It feels, hard, soft, that sort of thing. All descriptors, colors, smells, whatever you can get, and basically you keep on using your subconscious to get closer to target site and pull data. And if you're really good, like Joe McMonagle, you can draw things perfectly and, basically hit target most of the time. If you're somewhat good, you might be able to, or if you're not, an artist, you'll draw a representation of target and kind of make a summary of what you feel target is. And some people, they do get images, some don't. But, getting an image isn't important because a lot of people are really good at just, giving a good representation of target without that. I just get images a lot. So that's basically what it is. It's just, using the subconscious to connect with the target site and getting data from it. And as you work the target, you get closer to the idea of what, you're looking at. And you're not supposed to know what target is. Some people do targets that are an open target, like they know what it is. But thanks, Fee. But you're not supposed to know what it is. So that's all it is. And you can find remote viewing guides online. There's the CRV, I think, remote viewing manual. Anyone can learn this and anyone can do this. It's just like anything else. Like some people can play tennis. Some people are amazing at tennis. Some people do okay at tennis. It just depends on, your natural abilities and how much you practice. And it's really teaching it's like anything else. You're teaching the subconscious to access, what it has at hand. It's all just like conditioning. It's a psi muscle. Like your psi muscle does grow just like anything else. You're just making those connections in whatever the brain, to be able to do this. Whether it's like waves, like alpha waves, I forget. But like, it's just, prepping the brain. And some people can just go right into it. They don't need to put pen to paper, they're more psychic than others. And they've got that connection. It's like clear. So.
All right, I appreciate that. Yeah, that was pretty precise. What I'll say is, I think Ron has his hand up, and then we can go to Sam after that. Or
Yeah, so there's definitely a phenomenon that's taking place here, which is, the whole thing of remote viewing. You can't deny that, but I think it's important to make the distinction that there is the phenomenon, what's taking place, and then there's the source, or the mechanism, or what's actually happening, what you're actually connecting to. To talk in definitive terms in regards to what that source is, I think is problematic because one really doesn't know. And the appeal to science doesn't really hold true because even within science today, the hard problem of consciousness, consciousness itself is not fully understood. It's a first-person subjective experience. You can't measure that in a test tube. Sure, you can so you can hook someone up to a monitor, stick probes around their head, and see the changes in brain waves when someone is experiencing something. But science can never tell you what that person is actually experiencing, what's actually going on. So before we even get to science would explain this remote viewing phenomenon completely, science has to explain the whole phenomenon of consciousness itself before we get there. But nevertheless, that's not denying that there's something going on, that there is a real phenomenon. Remote viewing does exist and it does work to some degree. However, what's actually going on, the mechanism is unclear. And I think it's important to make that distinction.
Yeah, I'm back. Sorry about that, guys. I had to scoot off there briefly. I've just noticed Fringe is in there. I did mention you earlier, Fringe, but not in a negative light, so don't worry. I was just mentioning that you had an experience with the lady and kind of used it to show how two people can have like a similar experience, but one who's a bit more in tune can notice really what's going on, while another person, even though they see some of the negative stuff, lies or being the fraud that comes with it, they don't look at that because they feel so special that they've had an experience, and they overlook the negatives because they feel special. but someone like yourself who saw right through it. So it weren't in a negative light. So nice to see you in here. So yeah, I missed part of the conversation. Everyone, I had to duck out for a moment, but I see hands are up. So I don't know who's next. So whoever's next, just jump in.
It should be, you.
Yeah. But I just wanted to comment about the remote viewing that it's widely popular nowadays, as you just mentioned. However, where I come from, again in Egypt, this practice is very well known. Especially, how do you think they find till now the artifacts and the golds and the ancient Egyptian stuff under the ground? Right now, what's going on? That someone make remote viewing. They don't call it remote viewing, of course, and he claims that these people claim that they have some mediumship powers or supernatural abilities. They do remote viewing. They know the exact location of the statues and all the stuff. And then when they go there, they start the digging, but then they cannot enter the tomb unless they have to do two things. They have to bring a priest and a Christian priest and a Muslim sheikh scholar to be there. And most of the times they say they are bringing them because there are NHIs guarding the tombs, but they demand a child sacrifice most of the time. And mostly they do it from the children of the same family who's trying to find the artifacts. So they have to bring a child from their own bloodline to sacrifice for that. That's part of how, mainly how the remote viewing is used in modern day Egypt.
That is insane.
Yep, it is.
I've almost lost for words that's happening today, but I know they're obviously not doing the sacrifice because this would be absolutely, they'd go to prison. But and it ties back to the topic of today with the lady. So I think I'm glitching out because I only see like 2-3 people in the room, but apparently there's 32 people in it. So you have to forgive me. What I will say is, if anyone wants to chime in about the lady, I know some of you may have came a little bit after, but we've talked a bit about the lady today, and it's an important topic of the modern day. It's just one of the types or one of the manifestations of the non-human intelligence to sort of worm its way into influencing society. And the reason why the lady was kind of singled out, and again, I want to stress, it's not the only way that the non-human intelligence sort of, because you've got the Greys, you've got the Palladians or the Nordics, however you want to call them. There's loads of different types, but the lady's significant in that she seems to capture the hearts of the insiders, the people who are part of the program, and they hunt people down. I want to mention someone who's not in the space. Again, I can't see hands up, so you have to give me. I'm only seeing a couple of people in here, or maybe I'm talking to nobody and no one can hear me. But anyway, I want to mention there's a person I spoke to online. He's a great researcher, especially in the occult and things like that. And he mentioned that a number of years ago, in fact, he had an experience with the lady. It was during a meditation process that he was involved in. And he ended up going online. One of the social medias, it might have been Reddit or, maybe Facebook in those days. And he shared his experience in one of the rooms, what happened with the lady. And he said, after talking about this experience, a number of people reached out to him. Some people who are involved in very powerful families, high-level families. And he said also he had some people from the intelligence community reaching out. And the agenda was to get him to ask the lady questions. Oh, can you ask her this? Or if next time you have an experience, see if you can have dialogue with her. And he was being coached into how to, let's say, accentuate the relationship, take it to the next level. because they wanted information off her. So it presents this idea that experiences, and this is going to sound very odd, and a lot of you might not agree with me, that experiences are being hunted. Not in the classic out in the woods with a gun, but but I think that people are being groomed online, and I know a lot of people have talked about it, but groomed because of their experience, and they're being used because of their experience, and people on the inside want to grab knowledge from experiences. That seems to be what the case is. So if anyone can see the full room, and let me know who's in the room, and if anyone's got a hand up. So I don't know if you can see. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, we welcome Red Panda to join the room, and we have Justy having her hands up first, then Red Panda. Right, Justy?
Me? So, I don't know. My point was a long time ago. Someone said that we don't know. And it's true, we don't know. But we do know today that, certain things hold true in science. So I think I'm a big proponent. Like, I think science is a way to understand our world. And I think that's lacking in our world. We look to magic. We look to, a creator, but we still don't understand our world. So, to me, and science is always changing. We always learn new things, which is wonderful. So, and I can say that when I had psychic experiences as youth, I didn't meditate. I don't meditate. I don't do anything. It just, the universe sends it to me, or my brain just connects to something in the universe. And everyone has this ability. It's just a matter of whether, the organism needs it or not, or makes those connections. I just trusted in it. So I listened to it. We all have, those little things on our shoulder that tells us, maybe we should call this person, or maybe we don't go into work today, or you know what I'm talking about, or thinking of someone and then they call. So I think it's a natural ability. I think we're all connected. I think if we realize this, then, our world would be a better place. We realize we're all the same, to an extent, and discover what our world is. I think I'm always looking to see what our world is and who we are and what this universe is. And I think it's a wonderful thing.
Thank you. Red Panda, you can go ahead.
What up, guys? Yeah, I was listening to Anon because I'm kind of working on some stuff right now, but I had to hop up when I heard your story, and I'd like to hear you elaborate if you could, but that's something I've been saying for a while, is that there's these groups and cults and things that are really interested in people's connections with the lady. And even if you, there's that Jim Semivan clip, which I can maybe throw in the nest or something, where he says that's why people are interested in Chris Bledsoe. And I've heard from multiple people, like in this community and stuff, they post about their experience with the lady online, and they start getting hit up and prodded, and kind of like what you were describing. So I just wanted to validate that is something. And also they end up getting harassed and shit too. And but there's groups really obsessed with the lady interactions, and if you post that online, you will get hit up. Yeah. I know multiple people that have had that happen to them.
Would you let
what's funny, Red, is there's like I've been going through all the older stuff. What we're trying to do over here is sort of link what's happening in the modern times with previous times, and some of it's uncanny. Like it's identical to what's happening in America and the West. Happened like multiple times in multiple areas, but the reason why you can't go too far back is because we don't have much data on it. But why the Islamic nations of the previous times are good is because there's a lot of resources there. They were prolific writers and historians, so they wrote about everything that was happening. Yeah, I want to give one brief example. There was a guy who was having an experience in very close to the time of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. He was a guy who came just a few years after, and he claimed to be receiving messages, right? But he was receiving a non-human intelligence, because it was very secretive. He was very what's the right word? How do I describe this? He was very, he had no mercy. He wasn't about charity. It was nothing like what the prophets come with, right? You know, charitable.
Ruthless.
Yeah, ruthless guy, yeah. His name was Aswad al-Ansi. You can look him up. There'll be some data online about him. But al-Aswad, the people became a bit afraid of him because he had these jinn who were working with him. And they would report back to him. They were like spies for him. They were going around collecting information and bringing it back to him. So people were worried about doing an operation on him because they're going to know what's going to, you know, he might find out what we're planning. So because he was very evil and he was just killing people who didn't agree with him, and he was, you know, very ruthless. And when they eventually killed him, his neck was broken, but he had this devil inside him. This non-human thing had entered his body, possessed him, for want of a better word. And when they broke his neck, the thing got up and roared through the body, and this, like, the head was like wobbling around off his head, but the body was running around the room, and they were all petrified of him. Now, this was something I haven't completed my research into it properly yet, but the reason why I found that fascinating is because the type of information he was getting was spy information. These things were reporting back to him and spying on his behalf, and this is exactly what some of these programs do. They spy on people and want to know what you know. What are they telling you, and what information is beneficial for America? At the end of the day, when it's a intelligence operation or a military intelligence operation, it has an agenda, and the agenda is to benefit the military and to benefit the government. So it's not like let's say an innocuous researcher in this room who has an experience. There's no, like, they're not, the agenda is to share that experience and, I saw something in the sky, or I had a vision of this thing and I was reported this thing. It's innocent in its own way. But when someone reaches out to you and messages you and tries to create a relationship with you and says, we know some things about these things, or we share with you information about them, but you share with us, but don't tell people. And they create this environment where you're special. But to them, you're just meat that's getting information that they're interested in. I think it changes the game. It's a completely different situation there. And we're very much looking into this right now, Red. And, if you want to share some information with us, if you know anything.
Can I ask you to elaborate, though, real quick on what you had said about that businessman you heard of? You don't have to go into specifics like who it was or whatnot, but what were some of the things that people were asking him to, like, ask the lady? And what were some of the things that people were telling him to, like, take the relationship to the next level, as you described it? Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Effectively, in the initial stage, it was to get to know him, yeah. But it's people who are active on X, so I have to be very careful. But like, people associated with powerful families, and these families are known to be, perhaps involved with the occult. But what they want you to do, there's different protocols. So meditation is one thing, yeah. But as you know, there's protocols you can do. So they were encouraging him to do additional protocols to, because he said initially when he first started doing his meditation, and I don't want to misquote him here, but he was told not to engage with anything that he sees, just to be an observer. And one day he thought, you know what, I'm going to try and do something while I'm in this state of meditation, and I'm going to, I'm going to actively try to engage with what I'm seeing. And he did, and that's when he had the lady experience. So it did freak him out a little bit. But when he spoke about it, like I said, he was reached out by people who are from, powerful families and some intelligence insiders. He didn't tell me who the intelligence insiders were. And he said, but, that gave him a bit of notoriety among these people. And they were like, they wanted him to pursue to continue his meditation and to add additional protocols, whatever they might have been. I'm not entirely sure, because I didn't ask him, but it's something I will ask him. And those, in order to ask questions to the lady, and he didn't tell me the questions he was told to ask either, but I can kind of hazard a guess is, it would be, I think something along the lines of, how do we get in contact with you? How can I develop a relationship? I'm guessing. But what I'll do, Red, is I'll ask him and I'll message you privately with the information.
And see if maybe he'll be down to talk to me, and I'll keep it anonymous. And just last thing is, I've heard a correlation between those little groups like prodding for that, but also prodding about information about like the end of the world and apocalypse type stuff. So yeah, but thank you, very interesting.
Yeah, they are. They're obsessed with the end of the time stuff. They want predictions about what's going to happen because they want to try and fulfill them. They're bizarre people, man. Like very odd stuff that they want to, that they want to try and instigate over to humanity, man. I'm not a big. I don't trust 99.9% of what the people say, but when you've got multiple people being harassed, for want of a better word, or hunted, or being profiled as well. They've, like, you've shared it. I've seen it, Red. Yeah, you've shared some of the profiling that they do for certain types of people, and very bizarre things.
This weird experiencer blood hunt kind of going on too, with like the Peter Thiel network and stuff like that, and yeah, it's weird.
Oh, it's very weird, yeah. And then they're trying to identify these potential biomarkers in children, getting them out of school, and they're probably still doing it, by the way. Or they've found families that have a genetic disposition to being affected by these things. And they're probably funding their life, taking them in a corner somewhere, some country, giving them a very good life, but basically abusing them for whatever's required by the non-human intelligence, abusing them to instigate manifestations so they can get information from them. And that's speculation on my behalf. I might be wrong on that, but we have heard of people who've been in these programs when they're young. And what I found in the Islamic sources, or the Islamic history, should I say, with these so-called Sufi masters, is that children are particularly, targeted by the non-humans, I mean. Children. There was one, his name is Ibn Sayyad, you can look him up, but he was targeted by them. But he was very honest. He said, I receive a liar and two trustworthy ones, or two liars and one trustworthy one. So he used to receive multiple non-humans, but a lot of them lied to him, and he knew that. So he was honest. He's like, yeah, some of them lie and some of them tell the truth. But with the modern day experiencer, they can't, apart from very few, they can't bear to admit that some of the stuff they're given is bullcrap. No matter what, it's like, there was a fault with what happened and there was a mistake that was made. But in reality, it's these things are full of crap, man. And you might get one truthful piece of information and you'll get 100 lies. But if you're an intelligence operative, you don't mind collecting 1,000 lies to find the 2-3 truths out of it. So I see hands.
Sorry, bro. I don't know if you can see. You said you were glitching, but UFO Sarah and Interstellar. I think Interstellar has their hands up. Sarah had a hand up first.
Go for it.
Good morning. Good morning. I absolutely love your spaces. I'm so glad that I was able to catch it. IREP, thank you. And Imran, it's so good to see you guys. I put in the purple pill below. I did an interview. I had the pleasure of meeting Amanda Radcliffe and doing an interview with her, and she witnessed the lady, I think it was like 11 or 12 times. And I have to be very honest with you, I'm so sorry. I just woke up, so I don't remember all of her details, right off the top of my head. I remember that they are very amazing, and we had a connection, and we talked offline, and she is one of the most spiritual and amazing people. And if anyone is interested, you can look her up, and you can also listen to, if you wanted to, I don't normally do this, but you can listen to the interview as well here in an X space. I highly recommend if you're interested more about the lady.
Appreciate it, UFO Sarah, honestly, and thanks for turning up, man. It's been a while since you've been in one of them, so yeah, glad to have you back, and fantastic. Thanks for sharing that, and I'll make sure I share it in our WhatsApp groups and that, get everybody on it, so appreciate that. I think there's the little purple Interstellar, so you can jump up as well now.
Thank you, man. Yeah, I agree with Sarah. I know Amanda as well. I remember that space, and she's an amazing woman. I wanted to ask you why you removed Justy from the space.
It wasn't myself, but maybe one of the other people did. I think it's because, and I'm just speculating here.
Let's be honest. Be honest about it.
I didn't remove her, yeah, and I'm not a liar. So, you don't have to ask me to be honest. I'm always honest.
Is it because she was Jewish?
Excuse me? I just said to you I didn't remove her. And it may have been because she kept saying the same thing, and other people need to speak.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense, but yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, it's unfortunate some people have such perceptions. We actually had a good conversation with Justy for about 20 minutes, back and forth. So to make such an assumption is not really called for, to be very honest with you.
Yes, but to be removed from the space completely is very strange, isn't it?
Yeah, because if she is, I didn't block her and I didn't remove her. But if she's blocked, let me know and I'll make sure she's unblocked. But I really we're very honest people. We don't.
Hey, hold on. Can we get back to what we were talking about, Interstellar? If you want to derail this conversation, go somewhere else.
Not derailing nothing. She got removed from this space because she's Jewish.
Yeah, but that's not what we're talking about right here.
Wait, hold on. How can you speak in such definitive terms? Are you having some sort of a channeling with us right now? You're reading our mind.
Well, I'm asking you the reason why she got removed.
The motives for. Hold on a second, mate. Hold on. You are asserting that we removed her for a specific reason. Now, unless you're reading our mind, I don't know where you're coming to such conclusions. Like I said, we had a really good conversation with her for at least 15, 20 minutes. Everyone here is recorded. You can listen to it. So those assumptions aren't called for. If she wants to come back on, please do tell her to come back on. We have no problem in getting her back up on the podium. But please don't make such assertions without having some sort of evidence to back up what you're saying, man. It's really not cool.
It was a really good conversation. It was.
The panel. The panel's not full.
I learned a lot about. She explained, she went into. I didn't feel like there was any. There was no. It was great. I love your spaces.
Yeah, there was no animosity.
I enjoyed it as well.
The panel is not full. There was no reason to remove her from the space other than some other kind of prejudice.
Unless I did it by
accident. For you, Desmond. I'm disappointed in you. You should know better.
Don't tell me what I fucking should or should not know, Interstellar. I don't need a lecture from some fucking Brit that's taken up with whatever kind of narrative that you're trying to pursue here, dude. We're not talking about anybody's faith in this. We're not talking about anybody's faith in this fucking space, and we don't need you to come in here and assume that we are.
Because of her faith.
How do you know that? How do you know that?
And somebody mute Interstellar or to kick him out. He's talking nonsense, and I don't appreciate it. And I know I'm the host, but I'm not very good at these things. So,
whoever's thing is, we had a great discussion with.
Desmond, you got no integrity, bro.
Questions.
I have plenty of integrity. I'm here to talk about what they're talking about, not what you want to talk about, Interstellar.
I asked them a question.
Jay just taught us about how remote viewing happens, and it was great. I was drinking my coffee and I was listening, and then I played Fortnite. When I was done, I jumped up to talk. I'm so glad that you're having your space today, IREP, because I miss them all the time, and I'm glad to be here. And I think that we should get back on the conversation. If Jay just wants to come back, please have her come back. She was part of the conversation.
Yeah, she was.
I don't understand how this is a dramatic thing. I really don't.
Appreciate you, Sarah.
It's because you have people coming in with these predisposed notions of why other people make their actions, and they want to assume that it fits their bias and their narrative when it has nothing to do with the topic that we're talking about. So I really do appreciate you guys getting right back to that instead of dealing with that kind of shit.
Appreciate it. I just want to say I did remove that guy who was speaking, the Welsh bloke. The reason I did is because A's derailed the conversation, and I just put in the WhatsApp group, did somebody remove her? And yes, the co-host removed her because it kept diverting the topic, and we'd already covered it 15 minutes. He may have kicked her completely, and I don't think he intended to. But just to be absolutely clear, it's got nothing to do with whether you're a Christian or a Jew. And I don't appreciate people trying to make out that we're some sort of anti-Jewish group here. We just want to talk about UAP. If they're happening in Israel and it's a Jewish person who's having an experience, cool. And I think we was very kind, very open to let her speak for a very long time. And I appreciate what she had to say. We had a different opinion, but it definitely had nothing. I don't think, I did nip to the bathroom, but I don't think religion was even brought up once. So if you're going to come here to cause the sort of, in England, we use the word beef. Yeah, if you're coming here to cause beef, we're not appreciated. If you want to talk about the lady and try and stay on topic. We don't mind a little diversion into the things we did. Like UFO Sarah said, I actually benefited from learning a bit more about how people view remote viewing, how their experience of it is. But the topic is the ladies. So I think I was just told now in the group that they were removed because, or I think they meant to drop her down because kept going back to remote viewing, and we're trying to talk about a lady. But and if people disagree, you can message us privately and just say, and we're not bad actors here. I don't care what anybody's religion is. I don't know what UFO Sarah's religion is or Fringe's religion is. I do know Christopheros is because I've spoken to him, and he knows mine as well. So yeah, we're all good in here. But if anyone has a problem with that, our apologies. We're not here to create that sort of environment. And yeah, let's get back to it. If anyone wants to comment on what I've said, I don't mind. But then after that, we'll get back to the lady stuff, hopefully.
I think UFO Sarah has her hand up, so we can go to her.
Sure, go for it, Sarah.
Oh, I was just gonna bring it back to Amanda. It was amazing I was introduced to her through Steve and Juan Farah. They reached out, they introduced me to her, and she is amazing. And I have to take a deep breath because that is how I think of her. It's very heavy. She had these amazing experiences where the lady comes to her still today, to this day, and speaks through her, and I don't remember, I'm so sorry, her entire story, but I did put it down in the pill, and if you guys are interested, you can listen to that. And she goes into how she goes on these journeys, and she meets her, and how she's on a mission to spread this caring and loving thing with the lady. It's very beautiful, and that's her experience. And whether or not you believe in the lady or not, everyone has their own experience, and this was hers. And I believe that it was 12 times that the lady came to her. And I thought that was interesting because to me, I had only learned of Chris Bledsoe meeting the lady. So and then I think that there are astronauts, and it's, I'm sad that Jay Just is not here because I think that she does know about this, that there were astronauts, I believe, that have gone into space that have seen the lady, and I don't remember exactly, and I apologize the source for that, but I have heard that too.
Wow, so basically, people have seen her, the lady in the space as well. I've never heard this before. I really want to know more.
I know. I'm so sorry. I can't remember. My mind has not been focused on the lady in a while. I do remember like a year or so ago, someone coming in and saying that I don't remember much about it. Sorry, you guys.
Yeah, no worries. I appreciate it. And the thing was, it's not something new because I've seen some reports. I'm not sure how true they are, but they've said that astronauts, especially the new interview that Red Panda posted with, I think, as a member of SpaceX, when they asked him, or I think it was Mr. Beast who asked him, like, have you come across like any UFOs or something? And he said, not that we can speak of. And to me, that was like, okay, there's a lot more to it. So I wouldn't be surprised if they're coming across NHIs or even UFOs in the space. Red Panda, I would like to hear, because I know you posted a few videos, so do you want to hear your thoughts? I think you're muted. I'm not sure if you can. Oh, wait. I'm not sure what happened there.
Yeah, I think we are glitching. It is glitching a bit as well. People are getting disconnected.
I think Red Panda got disconnected. If someone can bring him back on, that'll be great. But Iman, yeah, go ahead.
Hey, Sarah, maybe to the astronaut seeing the lady thing, I think some of that comes from the conflation of Bledsoe, Taylor, and his interactions with the space program. I think that might have been where you had heard that before.
It might have been. Yes, it might have been. I do apologize. I like to remember where I heard the source from. It might have been Desmo. And I was just told that that the space that I put up in the purple pill was canceled, and there were 2 spaces. The second space was canceled, but I just put up the actual space with Amanda, the first space with her. Thank you, Christoph, for letting me know that.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, for the last few weeks, I was actually discussing with Sam here. I was talking to him about this. For the last few weeks, I've been seeing a group that came out of Middle East recently that has been promoting going back to the worship of these deities or divine feminine. I forgot the name of the group exactly, but they are trying to bring back this ancient goddess called Uzda, and it is very similar because I think they were also talking about how these are celestial beings, and there's a lot of history to this.
Yes.
Yeah, it's quite interesting.
Yes, Al-Uzza, she is a deity, one of 3 deities used to be worshipped in the Arabian Peninsula, which is now Saudi Arabia in the pre-Islamic time. And Al-Uzza was one of the main one that used to be worshipped, and she has also similar symbols to the lady, like the lioness standing next to her, having 2 swords and having a star above her head. And people are trying to call back for worshiping her now, and even they are buying statues of her, praising her nowadays.
Isn't that the same star that we saw on like the Baha'i religion? Is that the same one, or is that?
Yeah, it is the same symbol that the Baha'i religion have as their main symbol of the whole religion, which mainly they have the main center in the Holy Lands. They also take it as the place of worship and their whole experience. So by finding a lady, and then in their book, it's so into numerologies, and it all leads to the same rabbit hole.
I believe it's the same star also in the picture shared by Bledsoe above the Sphinx. It's the same star anyway.
Yeah, regardless who should be in 2026.
We have Nora's hands up. So, hi, Nora.
Hi, Hassam. How are you?
All good, all good. Happy to see you here.
I was listening to you guys talk about the lady, and I have this book that I picked up recently. It's on spirit possession, and it's like from the perspective of like Seventh-day Adventist Christians, but there's a really interesting section called impending deception. So I just wanted to read you this like short section, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
So it says, Jesus told us that just before his return, false messiahs will appear and produce great signs and omens to lead astray. And then in Ellen White's book, The Great Controversy, she wrote, as the crowning act in the great drama of deception, Satan himself will personate Christ. The great deceiver will make it appear that Christ has come. In different parts of the earth, Satan will manifest himself as a majestic being of dazzling brightness. His voice is soft and subdued, yet full of melody. This is the strong, almost overmastering delusion. And then it just goes into saying, like, give heed to these sorceries as it is used of supernatural or evil power over people or their affairs. So I just thought that was really interesting how it said that, you know, this like evil entity will appear as like dazzling brightness and kind of exercise power and work upon the human imagination. It'll corrupt the minds and the bodies of men and just be charming. So it really reminded me of the lady, how like people become infatuated with her and want to know more about her, want to see her, like things like that.
Nora, is your book contain something relates to the book of Revelation? Because in the book of Revelation, it mentions that there will be a lady in red or in scarlet dress with on her forehead written that she is the mother of abomination and she will lead the deception and what people call the beast.
It mostly talks about it through like the Christian perspective about like Satan and just like fascination with like New Age spirituality. Since this is a Seventh-day Adventist book, it was very I don't want to call it propaganda, but it was like you should avoid hypnosis, you should avoid rock and roll music, like things like that.
Yeah, in the sense of that, we have also in the Islamic context that was narrated that when at the end of times a woman of outstanding beauty and grace emerged from the sea, inviting people to her and the land. Everyone approach her will disbelieve in God, then God will send forth the Antichrist upon humanity. That's from Islamic also narrations as well. So yeah, that's very weird connection, or makes sense, logical connection. I believe we had Desmos hands on as well.
Oh, I was just wanting to say I appreciate your conversation, and I'm about as skeptical as it comes to the lady and Bledsoe and a lot of their claims that relate to it. But with that being said, I have to admit that I've had probably the only true experience I would say that I've had where I know, ontologically that it was, me that experienced it, was the lady using the gateway tapes in that gateway tape meditation. And it was this female white being with a lady's voice that said, "I am the Omega." I'm 1,000% sure that happened in my head, right? I heard those words, I heard that voice. But and me being very skeptical of the claims, it puts me in a bit of a situation where I don't really know for sure here. If that
Do you
makes
think
sense.
that was like an intelligent entity trying to contact you, or do you think that was like a subconscious acknowledgement of like the divine feminine?
I have no clue, right? That's the problem, Nora. Like it was such a experience, I would say, for me, that I have not one time used the gateway tape since that experience. Right? Because it was something so outside of the normal for me. I never hear another voice in my head other than my own inner monologue. And so hearing someone else's voice in a female tone present to me words that I heard and understood, and they were in a shape of a human, even though they were all white, they had no features that you would recognize. It was just the shape, the profile. But it happened, and it's the fucking strangest thing. Sorry for cursing, but yeah.
Is it, so she only said Omega? She didn't say I'm the Alpha as well?
Nope. Said I am the Omega.
That's really interesting because I think, what is it? Alpha is the beginning and Omega is the end?
Yep. 1,000%. Like it's ingrained in my memory, and I wrote it down immediately afterwards. What happened, because it was so profound to me. But yeah, I am the Omega in a female voice, all white being. I would say is the closest association to what you would say is the lady. And so being a skeptic of a lot of these claims regarding the lady, it's really weird for me,
May I ask you about what is your religious background, even like upbringing? That not doesn't have to you hold it right now, but may I know about this?
When I was young, Southern Baptist. Yep. Christian.
Okay.
Yep.
Because when you say light, that reminds me that like there is the verse of the Bible, the very famous one that says that even the devil can take the form of angel of light. And many people, even the Fatima people, that the three girls in Portugal, one of them, until she died, she didn't believe that it was a holy thing. The documentaries and the movies about the Fatima incident focused on the one that saw it as a divine experience. But one of the girls thought it as demonic experience until she grew up and died. but there was not enough focus on that. But from people who are having a Christian perspective and see just light, and let's be honest, sometimes we understand that some people see the divine feminine or the Virgin Mary as divine figure, but in reality, even biblical from scripture perspective, it just says that she's a human, not the Queen of Heaven. The Queen of Heaven in the Bible is usually condemned as a figure that shouldn't be followed.
Desma, did you have any exposure to the idea of the lady prior to doing the Gateway tapes?
Nope. I didn't follow Bledsoe's claim. This was even pre my UFO Twitter, coming into UFO Twitter. This was before ever engaging in any kind of community. Very minor research. Really didn't follow Bledsoe at all. No.
And so after this experience, did it leave you, like, what did you feel afterwards? Were you, like, afraid? Were you, like, in awe? Like, what did you get emotionally out of it?
Startled. Not afraid. I wasn't scared of anything. I wasn't in awe. I was startled because it was unexpected. I'm a very methodical person in my thoughts. And so even being in that induced state that the tapes put you in, I guess, I still would think that I am a very methodical person in my thoughts. And so it was startling when that was no longer the case.
Yeah, well, let me tell you guys about a weird experience that I had with a female figure. I don't know, it was something very weird. One day I was working from home, and out of nowhere, me and my wife, we catch up in a fight. And we decided to end the fight. She put her headphone and she played Quran to calm her down. Once she did, in few minutes, she fell asleep. And myself, while I'm working on my laptop, some idea coming to my head to go to bed and have a rest next to my wife. So I'm in the middle of my shift, I'm working, but I couldn't resist. Once I went to bed, suddenly I found myself in a very fancy place with someone sitting in front of me. She looked like someone I know, but I know it wasn't her. She's a friend of mine. And then I told her, why it looks like a movie that we're doing something wrong. And she winked and she said, but this is not a movie. This is real. And at the same time, I know that I am on bed while I can see her and sitting with her in this fancy room. And next to me is the wall, next to my bed. So I'm trying to resist. I'm trying to wake up. And I grabbed with my hand that next to the wall. I grabbed it from the hair. I can feel the hair in my hand. While at the same time, I was thinking, how come can I put my hand, straight my hand and hold her hair while I know the wall is next to me and I can feel my wife sleeping next to me. But at the same time, I can literally feel the hair in my hand until I woke up terrified with what happened. And that was very weird experience with a female entity that I know that she talked to me that as if she's not the person that she looked like. She was like someone looked like a friend of mine. That was a very weird experience I wanted to share with you guys. Thank you.
Yeah, that's like, that sounds like, have you heard of bilocation?
Nope, what's that?
It's like the phenomenon of being in like two places at the same time. There was a famous saint, I forget her name, but she, like her thing was like bilocation. Let me look it up real quick.
Yeah, she's in Europe and America at the same time, right? And then they had an orb in the room and all that with her.
Yeah, we heard about some people like this even in Egypt as saints, but they were not really saints. They were like Al Aswad, the one that Farouk has mentioned, that people think they are saints, some of them, because they have some supernatural things that they have done, but in reality, or maybe behind closed doors, they are not doing really what was supposed to be.
Yeah, the ones that I'm thinking of, they're all like Christian and Catholic like saints, and they have like a list of them that had like bilocation phenomenon. Was there any like marks on your hand when you touched the hair? Was there like any like residue or strings of hair or anything like that?
Nope, but the conclusion came after that, because after that I get up from bed, I prayed. When I'm praying, I'm asking God to make me understand what happened, and immediately I found an idea to my head that there was some sort of entity trying to start the fight between me and my wife. When she played Quran, it left her and tried to call me back to get into me, and that's how I get attacked.
Seduce you?
She wasn't seducing me, but she was talking in a way, like, in a sexy way, and sexy looks, but she didn't do anything. We're just sitting in a very fancy chairs in front of each other.
Assam, you gotta watch this video on egregores that I found on YouTube from one of my friends, and it perfectly describes like these like entities that just drain you of like energy, like they just want like your attention or your anger or your negativity. And the way that they explained it is like all these radical emotions give off like more body energy, like, when you're upset and your body's like just shaking, you can feel your heart pounding, like, versus when you're like happy or calm, your body's not really giving off that kind of energy. So it was explaining that these things need that energy or attention to like feed themselves, and if they don't get it, then they like dissipate and like dissolve. So the things that we focus our energy on is like what's actually like feeding them.
It's like energy vampires.
Yeah.
I do want to mention this quickly. So you guys did mention biolocation, and if you look at some of these, I don't know if this still happens. It could, but some of the reports that come from early, from the past about the Sufi the Sufi mysticism and these saints, they used to be present, and they used to be like in multiple locations at the same time, more than 2 locations at the same time. It has been reported, documented, especially in Turkey. I've seen a lot of reports of people or their followers reporting that they saw the saint in 3 different cities at the same time. So yeah, I think that still happens. But the thing is, we always like to connect this back to like showcase these NHIs and their attributes and link it back to what we call jinns. You guys might call them demons, but exactly how like the shape-shifting, deceiving. We're seeing this common theme as we began this the whole space talking about the lady, and we went through some historical events where we saw like how deception was always there with the lady, right? And that's why I want to speak to someone who had an experience with this lady, so that we can understand more about the deceptive nature, or how this lady approaches people, right? Because there's so many different reports. A lot of them are very similar, and yeah, so I would like to maybe in the next space, because I know we're up at 2 hours, but if you want to continue on, we can definitely do this. But yeah, just link it back to what we consider jinn, deception, shape-shifting, coming in a form of this divine light, you could say. And we're seeing this happen in Portugal with the lady at Fatima, and Zaytun in Egypt. And actually in Egypt, I think was one of the most common places where we have seen so many of these take place. Yeah, that's just my 2 cents on the matter. Do you guys have like a Sam? Do you guys want to wrap it up or continue going with this? Because I know there's certain people that have been with us since like the past 2 hours, and also,
let's see. Is there any hands up? Because I cannot see from my view.
Yeah, I mean, it's up to you guys. If you want to keep going or wrap it up for next week, I'm going to be driving for a bit, so I'm not going to chime in anymore. But it's been a fascinating discussion, man. Really good to hear from everyone's experiences as well. So we'll try to do this every Sunday. But if you guys want to carry on, bro, by all means, carry on.
To be honest, yeah, I'm a married man. I've got the ball and chain at home, right? And I've got lots of stuff that I need to get on with. So I don't mind wrapping it up here. But if we get, if a lot of people want to carry on, I can leave it running in the background. Or we can wrap it up and we'll do another one another day. But it's been an absolute pleasure. I just want to thank everybody briefly who's in the space. How do I do this?
I would like to invite everyone to follow IREP World account, because we will be hosting multiple spaces. It could be weekly. We'll try to work on that. So I would appreciate everyone if you can follow us, so we can have more open, nice discussions like this one.
I think the way they say it these days, bro, is like and subscribe. Sorry, I wanted to say that for so long. Yeah, sorry, that's very cheesy. So thank you, OGHA. I can't see your full name. Sadie. My auntie's called Sadie. I love that name. Hermit. Stoned with the three-eyed lady on there. Pretty cool picture. B-Cat, quadruple one. Ophelia, classic, always in the show as well. Thank you for coming again, Ophelia. Christopher, Brian Gnosis, yeah, legend. Brian's always here as well. Data Phenomena with the zombie dude. Rich, you with the red dude and the cool hat. UFO Sarah, another one who comes all the time. Fringe, you've been in a load of our stuff. Red Panda, not with the Furby. Dude, the Furby's... I mean, there's like a conspiracy about...
Yeah, Nora is the best.
Yeah, also I can only see no heart something with the Furby, yeah. Desmo, 2 Sam, Imran, 1 Sam, and a Fark Siddiq. Thank you everyone for joining us today. I think we will wrap it up here, boys and girls, if you don't mind. And again, sincere apologies if we came across in any way, shape or form. I think a lot of it was people just looking into something that wasn't reality. But again, if you've got any issues with that, message on the IREP account privately, and hopefully we can justify everything. And we're not bad folk here. Yeah, we try not to swear, we try not to do any of that sort of stuff. So yeah, we try to keep it all clean here anyway. So thanks again, everyone. Join us again very soon, and we'll do another Lady Unveiled or a different topic another time. So thanks very much, guys. Have a wonderful Sunday afternoon if you're in America, or evening if you're in the UK like us. And we might do another random one during the week, so it'd be great if you guys come and join us. And appreciate all of the input that we've had. I've learned a lot today. And by the way, I'm just going to throw this out there. We didn't get any beef or any complaints or any infighting until Red turned up. Yeah, so it seems wherever you go, Red, there's some sort of controversy that follows. But I'm all up for it, mate. Yeah, so I appreciate you coming. Once again, have a wonderful evening, and catch you guys soon. Cheerio. Bye. Assalamu alaikum.
Peace be upon all of you. Assalamu alaikum.
Shukran.
Shukran.